Welcome, Benita.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be your guest. Happy to be on the show here.
I'm thrilled that you're here. I've met most of our guests before and had an interaction with them, and this is the first time. A real privilege. I was reading some of your bio and some of the exploits and things that you've been celebrating in terms of accomplishments in Edmonton. And I think, in the interest of time, and you shared a fairly lengthy bio. But in the interest of time, I want to give you the floor. You were active last year in the Million March for Children organizing in Edmonton, and just recently in creating an environment in your town where there's no flags besides the Canadian flag, municipal flag, provincial flag, no partisan flags, and that is a good example for the kinds of work that other people in Canada can do. So, Benita, I'll share with you, and I've set some visuals up. Just let me know when you want me to share them, and I'll take care of that for you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Shannon. So I'll share the story briefly of the saga of the Rainbow Crosswalk in Westlock, and that's where I live, is Westlock, Alberta. I personally got started with that in June of 2023, and I started by doing a flyer distribution campaign. Now, I didn't have time or money to do flyers at every house in town, so I decided to target my flyers to a specific location, and it was the windshields of cars parked at churches. And what I did with those flyers is I informed people that our municipality was about to paint a rainbow crosswalk. And then I equipped them with the flyer with so much information. I let them know the mayor's email address, the mayor's cell phone number, the councilor's email addresses and cell numbers, because that was all public domain. I found it off the westlock.ca website, which they've probably changed by now. So I equip the people who receive the flyer with the actions they can take. If you oppose this, well, contact this number. Let your elected representative know. I also equip them with the actions, the step-by-step process on how to sign up as a delegation at the upcoming council meeting. A lot of people don't realize that in order for you to speak at a council meeting, you actually have to be on the agenda and you have to pre-register several days in advance, could be a week. So in some cases, it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks. There's a process there. So I laid out that process on the flyer I distributed that first week of June of 2023. So the great news is that two people decided to sign up and speak at council at the upcoming council meeting. And this is before the Rainbow Crosswalk was scheduled to be painted. They delivered excellent presentations that day. That same day, I had a rally outside in the parking lot, and I had a petition. Now, there's actually 3 petitions in this story. So the first petition started shortly after I released the flyer. That was an online petition at change.org. But as soon as that petition reached 500 signatures, it disappeared. Something went sideways there. Funny that. Then I had a second petition on the day of the rally, which was June 12th. Now, this petition wasn't written professionally because at that time I didn't know how to write a proper municipal petition. I just threw some thoughts together. And I had that at the rally June 12th, and it created a momentum. People signed the petition. I got 132 signatures. Later in the month in June, I presented that petition to the CAO of Westlock. They painted the Rainbow Crosswalk anyway. Now, the day they were originally scheduled to paint the Rainbow Crosswalk, ironically enough, was Father's Day. And so I rallied that day in the rain because they couldn't paint in the rain. And we did a rally, myself and some helpers. And we didn't have a lot of attendance, of course, because it wasn't well advertised and it was raining, but we had a lot of people watching online. And so we delivered presentations about how public spaces need to be neutral places. That was one of the messages. Public spaces need to be neutral places. And of course, standardized black and white crosswalks. They're safest. They're the best. So what happened is they painted the Rainbow Crosswalk anyway. And then I actually stepped away from the movement for a while because I work on other projects. The great news is other people got ignited to take action, and they started something called the Westlock Neutrality Team. And they actually have a website, westlockneutrality.com. And they put together a even better petition. Actually, Shannon, could you display that petition now? It's that black and white paper, probably the last one that you received. So they put together this professional and beautiful petition And what happened is they have someone on their team who is a previous town councillor who had actually been part of a petition on a different topic years ago. And so he knew the rules of petitions and how to make it so a petition can pass. So it has to be written in a certain way, it has to be formatted in a certain way, and you have to collect your signatures in a certain amount of time. The signatures have to be verified by a witness. The witness actually has to swear in front of a commissioner of oaths. So there's a whole process here to make a petition binding. And so this team was very motivated. They didn't just put out a thing online and say, sign our petition, or just do a website. They literally went door to door. And my understanding is they knocked on every residential door in Westlock, including apartments, and they got the needed signatures plus more. So the rule of municipal petitions in Alberta, if you want them to be binding, is you need at least 10% of the population to sign it. And so this is a great victory that this happened. They submitted the petition in September. The councillor, the CAO, verified it in late October of 2023. Interestingly enough, the mayor resigned. So I like to think that the mayor was feeling some public pressure. One of the councillors resigned so that he could run for mayor in the upcoming by-election. And so on November 27th, I was at the meeting where they had to do first reading on a bylaw on neutrality. And so that means no themed crosswalks and no flags on municipal flagpoles except for the provincial, the federal, and the municipal. So that was a great victory for us. But that council meeting was so interesting. We had one of the councillors literally say, oh, I don't approve of this. This is lipstick on bigotry. So Shannon, I was just wondering if you wanted to comment on that, if you had a comment yet.
Well, Melanie and I first picked up your story last year as the petition began to circulate. It caught a little, I don't know what channel we caught it on, but we reported on that. And I apologize. I looked around for a copy of that petition and in my inbox and couldn't pull it up for you. It's a great success story. And it's funny. It's funny because it's situation normal that you get these comments like lipstick on bigotry and yes.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly enough, at that meeting, so the town council, there was only 5 members of council by that time because 2 people had resigned and 1 was running for mayor. So immediately after they were forced to do first reading on a bylaw on neutrality, then they touched base with administration and they booked the plebiscite for February 22nd of this year. But then the next resolution, which I found interesting that this resolution happened immediately after that, was they committed the town of Westlock to sign up for the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities, which is another United Nations initiative. I'm sure you're familiar with some of them. And it means that the town of Westlock is now intertwined with the United Nations. And so because there were now some vacancies on council, I decided to run for council in December in the by-election. And I knew there were a lot of dynamics in my town. I knew that it was unlikely I would win because I had ruffled a lot of feathers, not just with the Rainbow Crosswalk stuff, but other things too, because I pushed back on COVID restrictions, etc. And I ran for council and I decided, well, I'm not going to win anyway, because they already know I'm a rebel rouser. So I used my campaign material to expose the fact that our town had just signed up with the United Nations Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. There's foreign interference now in our local policy. And there's this Rainbow Crosswalk plebiscite coming up February 22nd. So I used my campaign to get the word out about important issues. And I just want everybody to have that on your radar, because there's a lot of people that they're not game to run for office. They don't want to run for council. They don't want to run for school trustee. They're like, oh, I'll never win, And I'm here to say, even if you don't think you can win, run.
It's not about winning.
It's not about winning. It's about bringing attention to issues. I mean, if you can win, great. Like there's 2 ways to run a campaign. You can run a campaign to win, which depending on the nature of your community, you have to present yourself in a certain manner just so you can get elected. Or you can run a campaign to bring awareness to issues. And so that's what I did last December. and into January. And I had these amazing people come from as far as Edmonton. Some came even from 2 hours away to come door knocking to meet for me and make sure that my brochure got on the doors of every residence in Westlock. So I'm so grateful for that. And then, like I said, I used my brochure to help promote the plebiscite February 22nd. So the day of the plebiscite comes, it's a Thursday, and it's time for the vote. Is Westlock going to pass a bylaw on neutrality, or is this motion going to fail? Well, it passed. 663 votes said yes for a bylaw on neutrality. 639 votes said no. We only won by 24 votes. So if you ever come across anyone that says, oh, my vote doesn't count, it doesn't matter if I vote, you make sure you tell them this story. Every vote matters. We only won by 24 votes. And later this year, the rainbow crosswalk was rubbed off. And now we have a standardized black and white crosswalk at that intersection.
Congratulations. Congratulations. That's amazing. The other thing that you do when you run like that, and we learned that in Ontario, Chris Barros Fernandez was one of the, and myself as well, on the anti-woke slate of hatred and bigotry that we got billed at. But we gave other people permission to talk. We gave other people, we made an example of ourselves, and it was painful for lots of us. We took a lot of abuse, but we gave people the example that no one, like, you can speak, and even though people are attacking you, you can be proud, you can celebrate your victories. You don't have to measure them in we got a bum in a seat. Well, we will 2 years from now in Ontario and in BC, and right, for these positions. But I think you've shared an experience that lots of us have had who've taken that step. It's an excuse to talk to people. It's an opportunity to move forward other issues. And at a certain point, as we just saw in British Columbia, the population catches up, or almost catches up. And
well, we used a petition as well at both of the 1 Million March for Children rallies. So I hosted for Edmonton, and I hosted in September 2023, September this year. And so in September 2023, we had a petition entitled the Stop SOI Now 123. And so I collected a whole bunch of signatures on that petition at the 1 Million March for Children rally. Plus, we held another rally at Pride Corner, Edmonton, collected signatures there. Then I pestered my education minister email address for Alberta, and I made an appointment with the chief of staff for the Minister of Education, presented the petition. And that petition was part of the momentum. Like the 1 Million March for Children rallies were part of the momentum. But the petition, the Stop SOI Now petition, was part of it too, and presenting it. As of 2 days ago, here in Alberta, the education minister presented Bill 27. And Bill 27 has to do with healthy boundaries for children. It means that teachers can't be changing the pronouns of kids and not informing parents. Parents have to be consulted. Parents have to be informed. Parents have to give permission. So it also talks about the transgender agenda and how kids can't be guided towards transgenderism without the consent of parents. So we're working on an opt-in program rather than an opt-out, because the opt-out program meant that this material was being taught, and if parents were aware of it, well, then they could opt out. But the problem is so many parents aren't aware. They're not aware of all the, not just the curriculum, but the extra resources teachers use, such as SOGI 123, which is recommended by Alberta Teachers Association. So like, we are actually having some amazing changes in legislation right now in Alberta, and it's partly due to all these efforts. So the municipal efforts, the petition efforts, the rallies, there's been some people convoying Save the Children. All of it matters. And that's something I'd really like to emphasize to everyone, is everything you do matters. And I like what you said, Shannon, about celebrate your wins, because it's easy to get discouraged if we don't get the full win. So we got to take the time to at least celebrate the partial win. And because that helps keep us going.
Indeed. You've got, I'm looking here, you've got an event coming up. I'm going to share my screen again. Can you give us some a little bit of information about that?
Yes.
Conservatizing municipal councils.
Yes, I am determined to, in Alberta, for example, we have our elections on October 20th, 2025. And I'm determined to transform every municipal council in this province, put people on those councils with our values and on the school boards. So I host these monthly meetings. I've been doing this for about a year. They're called Conservatizing Municipal Councils and School Boards. And at each of these meetings, I bring in a variety of guest speakers. We share strategies for influencing the current policymakers. So not just the elected representatives, but the policymakers. So that means administration. And we share strategies for replacing them in the next election, whenever that is. And what we share at these meetings, it isn't just for Alberta. This is nationwide. Anybody across the nation can tune in. Just make sure you're tuning in at Alberta time, 7 p.m. And that's Tuesday, November 26th. So the way to sign up is simply go to tinyurl.com/conservatizing and you can register for free.
Amazing. It's a common conversation. I'm involved with FAIR Ottawa and FAIR Canada. And they have this kind of eye on turning over or helping to turn over, but they're not an activist group. They try it. It's kind of a funny position that they're in. They'd like to see these things change to more open, more traditionally liberal, classical liberal values, but they can't really get involved. So the grassroots actual energy is coming from people like you. And sorely needed. So, you've got a 12-month timeline or just under now. And in Ontario, BC, I think in Manitoba, we've got a 24-month timeline as well. And it's opportunity for us to keep waking people up.
That's exactly right. And actually, one of my featured presenters on November 26th is Maggie Hope Braun, who works on this Kickley program. And so she's one of the presenters, but I also have a past school trustee speaking. She's going to give us some insights about the problems she picked up on. I'm probably going to show that clip from Niagara when at the school board meeting, they had that big fuss about the flags. And so we're going to talk a bit about Catholic school boards and pride flags. Mm-hmm. So that'll be on there. And I have a Reeve coming. He served as a county Reeve a few years ago, and he's going to talk a bit about parliamentary procedure. Because it's one thing to campaign and, get elected. It's a whole nother thing actually to do the job. So whether you're mayor, you're Reeve, you're councillor, you're a school trustee, you're chairman of the school board, as soon as you're elected, you've got all these responsibilities. So it's nice in advance before you run to kind of get an awareness of what you're getting into, because you can't just go into a meeting and say your piece. It doesn't work like that. There's process and formalities that we need to know and respect so that we can get the good work done.
Amazing. It's been so great to have you. We're gonna, of course, we have our audience here, but we're gonna share this up so people can references on our Canadian Culture Wars Report channel, and we'll put the information about your event coming up into the chat. And because of my glitchiness earlier today, we're delayed a little bit, but I want to start to bring in our grassroots panel. And I want to thank you very much for sharing your experience, and congratulations again on the victories along the way in Westlock, and great example for others across the country.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I'm welcome to offer suggestions to anyone looking to do similar things. Just reach out. You have my contact information.
Terrific. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Benita.